I want you to tell me about an experience from your years researching Kabbalah and during your consultations, let's say something paranormal or mystical, regarding this reincarnation thing, to make it a bit clearer for me, brought down to earth, from your experience.
Well, look, I can tell you. Several come to mind, but I can tell you about an experience I had once during a session with someone. In Spain, we have a lot of history with crypto-Jews, meaning Jews who, since the time of the Inquisition in 1492, we know there was an expulsion of many Jews, but many others converted, in quotes. I say in quotes. Many continued practicing Judaism in secret, known as crypto-Jews. As the years and generations went by, people stopped practicing Judaism, even in secret. In many cases, the vast majority of people who come to my office turn out to be descendants of those crypto-Jews. I suppose it's because they feel an affinity with me, because I am one too. So, I remember a time when, intuitively and with absolute emuna, I had complete certainty. The person was telling me a story and a difficulty they were having in life. And I immediately realized that this person came from a branch of crypto-Jews. She had been expelled and was doing the rectification from 500 years ago. That person was committing, let's say, an act of revealing information that shouldn't have been revealed because of their job, but they were, let's say, leaking information to the media about other people. In other words, they were betraying or harming the honor and privacy of certain people. And this was a rectification of what they did to her 500 years earlier, since she was Jewish, that person 500 years earlier. It was the neighbors, let's say, who did that to her, who reported her, who betrayed her, etc. I discover this when the person takes it, using their personality archetype diagram, name, and my study of them. This person, upon discovering this, suddenly becomes very emotional. They become aware, shed a tear, become aware of the truth, because when you become aware that the truth is the truth, you get chills all over your body, your hair stands on end. It's something very significant when you identify the truth. At that moment, he realized he needed to stop, likely change professions, and maybe move to another city. In short, a series of major changes. Because his correction was already finished, because he had become aware, there was no point in him staying there anymore, he had already become aware.
I understand. Could you explain a bit more? Personality archetype diagram?
Yes.
How do you run that query? For someone who wants to rectify the mistakes they made in the past, or injustices or killings?
Look, this is done through the person's date of birth. The date of birth is our common calendar, that is, in our Gregorian calendar. The official date is usually the important one, because there are many people who are born on one day but are registered on another. And there's also an interesting characteristic there. Well, I'm not going to get into that, but it also has its own interests.
Go ahead and elaborate, Raúl. I'm interested. Yes, feel free to get into that.
Well, when a person has a birth date and is registered on a different date, I mean, when they're registered on one date but were actually born on a different date, and there's a gap, there's a period of time, I take both dates into account, because it's giving you information about what is the Tikkun they come to rectify as well. Some information can't be dismissed. It's important. And usually, it has to do with children who are not from the parents who claim to be. Usually, the father isn't who people assume, but it's also not another person. That's been my experience. But well, when
they register him on different dates.
Yes, but it's mostly related to the grandparents' generation. The Torah states that children inherit their father's sins up to the third and fourth generation. Does that mean that the short circuits or mistakes made by the grandparents and great-grandparents will be embodied in the grandchildren? The grandchildren won't know why their situation is what it is or why things happen to them. They'll think it's bad luck, but they're actually programmed to endure it. Reincarnations always occur within the same family tree, always. And this is interesting too. So what happens is that a summary of information about that soul is generated from those family members who provide information about what that soul agreed to rectify. You may want some information from your paternal great-grandfather, maternal great-grandmother, and grandfather. And you start making a sort of mix of those things you want to fix in this world. And so that's the potential your soul has. You find it within your own genealogy. So the personality archetypes diagram is through the date of birth. It allows you to find out what information you come to rectify, what are the facts, the events that your ancestors, let's say, did in a wrong way, but not because it was wrong, but because they lacked information, they lacked knowledge. And now the grandson or granddaughter who has knowledge, has curiosity, has the ability to ask questions, needs to live better, and needs to look for answers. And so they know that there is an answer within them. And the date of birth is like a code. Why? Remember that numbers can be translated into Hebrew letters? As discussed in the previous podcast, Hebrew letters are the archetypes and computational language of creation. So in the DAP, can I take all the numbers and turn them into Hebrew letters? And there's a really deep study about what rectifications a person comes to do.
A question. A generation, an Asian civilization, yes, zero contact with the Hebrew world. Never,
Yes?
they don't have this kind of cote. I mean, the culture before China, no, it's not a culture and civilization that's thousands of years old for those countries. Not everyone in the world has any kind of contact with that kind of information.
They do have it because it's also written in the Torah that there are 12 tribes of Israel and there are lost tribes. And many of them went very far away. So if you start to analyze, for example, traditional Chinese medicine and the concepts of traditional Chinese medicine, according to the Zohar, Kabbalah says a man's semen originates from the head. Traditional Chinese medicine agrees. Concepts that are this radical and that shake up many of the ideas, let's say orthodox medicine. And also regarding facial features, hair features, and body features. There are many affinities. There is also a lot of affinity between yoga and Kabbalah, a lot. Why? Because what yoga seeks is the circulation of energies and the healing of energies. Throughout the bodily vehicles are several, not just the physical one. There are also etheric vehicles, soul vehicles, emotional vehicles. Kabbalah teaches this the same way. The soul has a physical level called nefesh, an emotional level called ruach, and an intellectual level called neshama, among others. The concepts are parallel, and there are several interesting studies on parallels between different cultures. These Eastern ones, which ones are you referring to? That actually makes one wisdom fit perfectly with the other, meaning that they are complementary, if you will, that they help each other. And that is also part of the era of the Mashiach. Mashiach is Yeshua. I have understood there is intellect, there is understanding, and I have understood that I can help myself with one wisdom and I can help myself with the other. That I don't have to be dogmatic or radical with any of them. But actually, all wisdom lies within my own soul, and the only thing my soul does is recognize it. When it notices that the truth is right there in front of it, it recognizes it, and then feels attracted to that truth and wants to study that truth. And does that apply to Chinese medicine, or to yoga, to Reiki, to any other wisdom of healing or personal self-knowledge? The Enneagram, for example, and all of Gurdjieff's teachings. I could name all the transpersonal psychology of Charles Tart in Spain and Antonio Blake. I don't know. The whole Gestalt school, the whole school of psychology that helps you go further. Bioneuroemotion, for example, links symptoms to emotional conflicts. Well, all that knowledge is complementary and comes together. And the Kabbalists say that since Kabbalah encompasses everything, in the end, all of that is Kabbalah. Because they are all Kabbalistic concepts, actually. They're all of them. All those concepts belong to the instruction manual of the human being, which in the end is coded. And in the Torah,